Things are getting wild for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Its opening night is exactly 1 week away. Training camp is well underway. Brad Living has come out and revealed some interesting details surrounding Yanni Hakanpaa's situation and his availability heading into the season. We're going to break that down, as well as some insight from William Nylander regarding his move from center to wing and then back from wing to center. So we're going to break all that down on the stream. So welcome in, everybody. This is the last stream before the big stream next week, which is going to be opening night. So there's a lot to break down today, and we have some. It's a bit quiet, but we have some, definitely have some news to break down. Darius, there's a lot to go over today, and 1 week from today, we're going to be preparing ourselves about an hour away from the opening night, and it's exciting. We've been waiting for this all off season, and what's been a pretty long off season, and again, it went by pretty quickly. But with the way the last even few seasons have ended, to be able to be a week away is super exciting.
It's super exciting. I'm ready for this season. I know a lot of fans are too. And one of the first things I'm wondering too, because, opening night is next week, a week from tonight, is will Arbor Jacki be joining us on Wednesday because of what happened last night? Pretty interesting stuff in the last couple games. Obviously, his fine as well. I wonder if he gets suspended at this point. There's a lot of storylines going into the first game of the year, not only on the Leafs side, but the Montreal Canadiens too. So it's going to be really exciting. And obviously we'll get into some stuff in this stream about, Nylander had some pretty interesting comments. I thought Berube had some interesting comments, especially today. He spoke to the media, when they were up in Bracebridge doing their, I guess, cottage country skate, whatever you want to call it. So interesting stuff for sure. And we'll get into it, but I'm just super excited for the season to start at this point. I always get really happy around October because, all the sports are picking up again, and hockey is definitely back, and hopefully we're not disappointed in April again.
Yeah, and this seems like the what's up, Landshark trick shot, Steven. This seems like the calm before the storm for everybody. Again, we've been waiting for so long, and we only have one more week to wait until we finally get to see Maple Leafs hockey. And there's going to be tons of storylines. And yeah, we're going to break down the McCabe thing as well in the stream a
Yep.
little bit. But we're also going to have a video coming up on that. But there's a lot to go over, and obviously they're starting to make roster cuts now. They haven't officially made a ton. What's up, Jose? Glad you can tune into this one. It's the last one before the big stream next week. But let's dive into some of the things, and let's start with the Yanni Hakanpaa situation, because that is one of the biggest ones playing into the opening night in a week. So he spoke on Yanni Hakanpaa and when he will be ready for game action. He said, that's a tough one. I can't really answer that question right now. We'll have to wait and see. We got a little bit of time yet, and see where he gets to and where he's at. He's got to be comfortable with getting in there and playing a game. So I'm curious in the chat now. I'll ask you, I'll ask everybody in chat as people start to flood in here. Do we think that Yanni Hakanpaa is going to be ready for opening night? I do not think at this point it's going to happen. Just type yes or no. Do you think Hakanpaa will be ready and active for opening night? Another thing to break down in this stream, and I'm sure in a future video, Darius, the Leafs have yet to make a move surrounding Max Pacioretty to get him into the team. So every week we've had the stream, we thought this move was going to happen last week, the week before, the week before, the week before. It's happened. Hasn't happened yet, and again, as it inches closer and closer, it's going to get very, very scary here. They're cutting it real tight. What's up, Shane? Yeah, 7 days, 1 week away from one of the biggest opening nights in recent memory with the amount of changes the Leafs have. But just yes or no, do we think Hakanpaa is going to be ready? If you're in the chat, let us know.
I think we're all a little impatient right now, waiting for something to happen because we know it eventually has to happen before the season opener next week. But I think they're really going to give a lot of these guys two more opportunities here with the games coming up tomorrow night and Saturday night, right? Because they still have two games left against Detroit here where one guy could really, change your mind. If he's on the fence, you could really change Berube's mind, right? So there's still a lot in play, and I'm sure they're kind of discussing what's going to happen. You only have to have the roster set for October 8th, I believe I saw. I could be wrong on that. I'm pretty sure that's the case. So the day before the season starts. So they still have about a week here to make some decisions. But in terms of Hakanpaa, like you brought up, to me, there's no chance he's in the opening night lineup. There's literally no way. He hasn't skated in game action. He hasn't really skated in practice, a full practice either. So there's just no way he plays opening night. I think he'll be joining us probably in a month's time or something like that, where they kind of get him acclimated into the system. And certainly in practice, it would have been nice for him to get into preseason, but this guy didn't even skate most of the offseason, right? Like, he was rehabbing for most of it. So he needs to get back up to speed. It's going to be a process. Don't rush him. I think he's going to be really great for the Leafs down the stretch. And yeah, there's no way he plays next week. But that is interesting though, because it could affect some of the moves that they're making. We talked about Liljegren yesterday and that kind of battle between him and Timmins, and that could affect them either, keeping Liljegren because he's not going to be ready, Hakanpaa that is, for the start of the year. So there's a lot still in play here, and it could be affecting some of the moves that potentially they're looking to make before next week. There's still a lot on the table. Like they have to make a couple moves. And when I say moves, not necessarily a trade, maybe waivers, something like that. But they have to do something pretty significant coming up here in the next week. Like somebody's going to be not on this team.
Yeah, and there hasn't been that many moves as of late. Like we expected some things to happen, whether it was a trade or anything. It's been pretty quiet. Obviously, there's still tons of things going around, and whether it's the McCabe extension talks that are starting to heat up. Like 1 week, 7 more days is all we have to wait. Gary, no way he plays. No way he plays. He hasn't had his first practice. Yeah, like he obviously won't play opening night, and I don't think even if he was healthy, maybe there's a world where he wouldn't have played anyway, depending on how they like the matchup against the Montreal Canadiens. Though they would probably put him out there if he was fully healthy, given everything that's been going down there. And we're definitely going to get into that as well, because again, there's a lot to discuss here. Obviously, we have the trade, still the trade rumors that we discuss almost every week on the stream, but. Again, there's people that need to be traded. Berube has come out and basically, we obviously know that Berube likes a lot of the players that they've acquired in the offseason and things like that. Yeah. But it's no secret that they need to make a move for Max Pacioretty and to get him on. And I see a lot of people out there saying they should just keep, maybe not even sign Max Pacioretty, all these things. I think they're definitely going to sign Max Pacioretty. Nick Robertson, whether or not they trade him, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. They're definitely going to keep him, but Steven Lorentz is another guy that is still out there unsigned. Nikita Grebenkin is probably not going to play with the Toronto Maple Leafs this year, which we'll get into in a little bit. But there's so much here that has yet to happen, and we're 1 week away. They're really taking it down to the wire. And maybe now that this little getaway was in Bracebridge is done, they'll start to get these moves on the go now.
I think they'll have some clarity after this for sure. And they usually do. They'll finally, they'll make their final cuts after this kind of trip up to Bracebridge and up north every year. But I think Steven Lorentz, and I keep saying Lorentz, by the way, I don't know if it's Lawrence. They call him that on the broadcast. When he was in the OHL, it was always Lorentz. So I'm just going to go with that. But Steven Lorentz, to me, has made the team in my eyes. And I think Berube loves this player. And he's exactly what the Maple Leafs need. And he's won a Stanley Cup last year with the Florida Panthers. So I think he's made the team in my eyes. And when you look at the whole lineup after that, Berube talks a lot about identity, which is something the Leafs have not had in the last couple of years. I've said that was something that drove me crazy in the Sheldon Keefe era and the Kyle Dubas era, where it was just, hey, we have a bunch of guys and I guess they can play together. That's kind of their approach to the team, or that's what it felt like. And Berube is very identity oriented. So guys like Cowan and Grebenkin don't fit into the team for me when I'm looking through that lens, because they don't fit any type of identity. If they're not going to be in the top 6 or on a scoring line, they don't belong on the team. That's just the way the team is going to operate. And I think that's fine, because we've seen, obviously, Berube won a Stanley Cup. We've seen teams win Stanley Cups with that kind of mentality. So, and how they structure their team. So, Cowan might still make the team for the 8 or 9 games like we've talked about, but after that, I don't think so. Grebenkin, the way he was talking about him today, and we'll get to that in a bit, don't think he's going to make the team either. So it's pretty interesting. A lot of guys, I think, have earned jobs. Pacioretty, they had a handshake deal before he signed the PTO anyway. I think he's going to be on the team, and he had some, leadership and veteran qualities as well to the team. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like, I don't know who's the odd man out at this point. My picks personally, I think at this point, just because of salary, would be David Kampf and Timothy Liljegren, because Liljegren isn't like, I don't know if he's so much better than Timmins at this point. Somebody may disagree with that, but I don't know if he's that much different than him, and you're saving a lot of money that you can use elsewhere on the team.
Yeah, Liljegren's name has been brought up a lot. Obviously, the contract. I don't know if it hinders his trade value, because I'm sure other teams would rather trade for an asset that has control, but at the very least, it isn't a good contract, at least this year. But if he goes out and he has a great year this year, let's say he puts up however many points and is good defensively, like he takes the step we thought he was going to take last year, then there's a world where the contract ends up being fine. But yeah, I mean, we haven't heard much about David Kampf, about any of these guys, and I'm going to bring up, and Darius, I'm going to send you something real quick here. I'm going to get up a screenshot if we can get this going, and just, I want to bring up I've seen a lot on Twitter about different lines and different, because obviously at this point, Craig Berube was asked about this today. It was asked about basically, do you have the lines, the opening night roster and the opening night lineup penciled in your head at all? And he basically said kind of, to a degree, but I'm curious to see what you all think about the lines I'm going to show in a minute. But as well, who do we think is going to get traded? You obviously just mentioned Timothy Liljegren. Type in the chat the player you think is most likely to get traded in order to make room for Max Pacioretty. Because as much as we hate it or like it, I'm obviously a huge Max Pacioretty guy, so I want him on the team. But I think they probably move on from Liljegren as well. I have a weird feeling they're going to move on from him. But the problem is, if Hakanpaa isn't close to ready, that means that, obviously you mentioned a couple guys, whether it's Connor Timmins, we've seen him play up and kind of be with Group A for a while now. maybe they keep Connor Timmins up and he's somehow in the opening night roster, depending on what they get back from Liljegren. But I can't imagine what they get back from Liljegren is going to be. It won't be any salary back. So maybe it would be a pick, maybe a third, fourth round pick for Timothy Liljegren. And maybe they just rock with that, get the salary cap going and get the space, move Pacioretty up, and I guess rock with Connor Timmins until the future.
I think when we were talking about Nick Robertson, him getting traded in the summer because of who he is, like the type of player and what he did, I could see them getting a roster player back. Maybe not something that would have matched his output, but I could see them getting a roster player back. With Liljegren and Kampf, I don't see that. It's probably draft picks, maybe future. It's going to be some type of futures, and that's fine, right? And for some reason, I don't know. I'm not trying to disrespect Connor Timmins or anything, but based on what we've seen, Liljegren, has been higher on the depth chart in past years. But for some reason, so far this preseason, Berube loves Connor Timmins. Something he's doing, he loves him. I don't know what it is exactly. And he's not a bad player. I think he does some really good things. I just don't know if, he has the track record in the NHL. But again, you have to play games for that. So no better opportunity than now, right? So he did have some promise coming out of junior, but yeah, Liljegren could be the odd man out at this point. And Berube really likes Timmins. Again, I'm going to reiterate that. Like he's higher on the depth chart right now, and he's giving him more opportunities to play and really carry the puck too. Like he's really giving him the green light to see what he has. So I don't know. It could be that they're playing these guys to try and shop them as well. Like maybe Timmins is playing so they can kind of show him off. But when you're higher than somebody on the depth chart in terms of practice, to me, that shows me that the coaches want you in the opening kind of roster there, right? So,
yep,
pretty interesting.
Jose, I agree. Andrew, Nicholas, goodbye. Liljegren, you're only getting back a fifth for Kampf, probably a third for Liljegren. Yeah, like at the end of the day, you're probably not getting a ton back for either of these guys, but it's more so a matter of who is going to be able to stick with the assets you're going to get back. Aren't really the concern. It's more so the cap dumping to make space for Max Pacioretty, because it's not like you're trading a guy like Mitch Marner or anybody that's going to be huge. What's up, Mike and Nicholas? But also, if you're new to the stream, make sure to hit that like button. We're live every single Wednesday. But let's dive into the.
Can I say something about Kampf real quick? Yep. Because people are bringing it up. David Kampf, for some reason, I don't know if this has been the discourse after or the last couple of days. For some reason, people don't want to let go of this player or the idea of this player, and they still think he's a great penalty killer and all this. And I think he is, right? He's a very valuable fourth liner. But for the amount of money he makes, Steven Lorentz might be a better penalty killer than him. He plays harder than him, a heavier style. So I'd rather a guy like that in the lineup over David Kampf, for example. I don't know if Lorentz can play center as effectively, but nonetheless, I wonder if people are just afraid of change and they know what's in what they have in David Kampf. But this penalty kill was horrible last year. Like I think 23rd in the league. So something has to give. Like if they move off of Kampf, it really can't get worse. I don't think they have some pretty good substitutes there. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I've been seeing this discourse online over the last couple of days about David Kampf and certain like bottom six players. You can't get rid of them. I think we can get rid of them if it makes the team better in certain areas.
Yeah, I tend to agree as well, especially at this point. Like we know you're going to get out of David Kampf, and I think the Leafs have other guys, specifically Pontus Holmberg, who can do exactly what David Kampf does, better, cheaper, and to open up space for Max Pacioretty. I like Lorentz a lot. He is a must-sign over Patches by a mile. Like I don't think it's one or the other here. I think they can do both. And I think their plan is to have Pacioretty on the third line, have Lorentz on the Lorentz, whatever, have him on the fourth line. I think that's kind of the plan here. And let's look at some of this as we're starting to get closer now. We can kind of start to look at some of the mock lineups here. So this one is interesting. And I want to hear all your thoughts in the comments as well, because I think this one is possible. Now, again, at this point, and we'll get into it all, but let's just start with it. So do you guys just type yes or no in the chat? Are you a fan if this was the opening night lineup? And bear with me for the defense because he obviously has Hakanpaa in there. We can replace Hakanpaa with either Liljegren or Connor Timmins, depending what's up to you. Now, this is assuming, he is assuming here that Liljegren is traded in order to make room for Patches. But you have Nyes, Matthew Marner, Domi, Nylander, Järnkrok, McMahon, Tavares, Robertson, Pacioretty, David Kampf, Pontus, Holmberg. So the interesting thing here is probably Järnkrok on the second line and Robertson on the third line. There's a world, I would imagine they get switched, and maybe even having Pacioretty on the third line is more likely, but I can see what they're doing here. I'm not entirely sure that they're going to want to start Robo at the on the third line, but it's interesting having Kampf and Holmberg in the same line and no Lorentz here. So I'd almost rather put Holmberg at center and put Lorentz in the wing here and just let Kampf go, in my opinion. But that's what I think.
Yeah, just looking at this, I mean, here's the thing for me. We have to talk about identity because Berube talks about identity. This is the way he's going to structure the team. So we have to think about it through that lens, right? Because that's the way it's going to be. So when you look at that first line, I think it's going to stick together. They've been together the whole training camp. You know what you're getting with that line. They can be defensively responsible as well. That's great. The second line is just going to be like, I don't know what to call it, but it's just going to be like everything to the wall and we're trying to score, and defense does not exist. And I think that's fine because that's just the identity of the team. I think Domi and Nylander are going to stick together for a little bit. Yarncroke doesn't make sense there to me, even though he's a right shot. I would move Robertson up to the second line. You know what you're getting with that line, full offense all the time. That's exactly what that line is going to do. When you look at the third line, I would have Pacioretty and Tavares together because I thought they worked really well together. Put McMahon on that line, that's trouble for other teams. I think that's a really solid checking line and a line that can still score for you. I think that's a solid line. David Kampf is out for me. I would have Lorentz on the fourth line. I would have Holmberg at center, and then I would have Reeves on the right wing there. I don't think Reeves is going anywhere. A lot of people don't want Reeves in the lineup. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's going to be in the open night lineup because there could be some shenanigans against Montreal Canadiens. And Dewar is still injured. We don't know what his timeline is. So injuries are going to happen throughout the year. He'll factor in some ways there. But I think that's more of what I'm looking like, or what I think the lineup will look like come opening night in my eyes, at least in my perspective. But yeah, in terms of defense, I would replace Hakanpaa with Liljegren for now, maybe even Connor Timmins, right? But if Liljegren is here, if he's not traded and he's starting the season, I feel like because he makes more, he'll have to play over Timmins, or that's a bit of a disaster. But in terms of goaltending, we know what's going to happen. But I think it's pretty close. I would make a couple changes, and I think if they don't sign Lorentz, I think that's a missed opportunity for the team.
Yeah, I think Lorentz is going to factor in there somehow. And obviously, Dewar's out for a while. There is a world they probably start Reeves, but at the same time, I'm not entirely sold on anything actually happening next Wednesday. I'm hoping that the whole situation. I just want the Leafs to go out there and win a hockey game. I'm kind of at this point somewhat over the Arbor Jack Eye, obviously, because it's not like Perry is going to even be on the team, right? So he's not going to be playing. But depending what happens with Arbor after another questionable hit, we'll go with maybe you put Reeves out there. But either way, Reeves can be an effective player. Camp has to go. He makes way too much for a fourth liner. Yeah, the question is another team has to be wanting to take him. Apparently, Berube is high on Timmins. I think Berube is just high. I mean, he is high on Timmins. He didn't look good last year at all, Connor Timmins. So I mean, it's maybe they give him another shot.
You know what I think it might be? I'm just throwing this out there. I don't know if it's exactly that, but Timmins might lend to Berube's style better, and maybe that's
definitely
why
better than Lillard.
Yeah, I think that's might be why Berube's taking a liking to him. And Timmins looked terrible under the last system, and that I don't know if it's his fault. He had moments, right? But everyone has moments. But yeah, if you look at the entire sample size of last year, Timmins did not have a good year. But I think that he might play better under this type of system. So, wow.
Wow, Jose. $50 from Jose. You guys rock. Keep it up, Jose. I gotta find the animation here. Let's get back to the animation. Jose, you are a legend. I'm glad you're able to tune into this one. I gotta find it. 1 second. Darius, speak in the meantime. I gotta find this.
Yeah, you'll find it there. But Jose, thank you so much. You've been watching all of our streams here. We've seen you.
Wow,
right?
Jose.
You've been watching every single one since probably free agency. I don't know.
Since we started doing every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday. So thank you so much. That is awesome. We really appreciate it. Both Nick and I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Jose. I'm glad you've been able to tune in. And Jose, we're almost there. We're a week away from the from opening night. I'll throw in 2 of these for you. Thank you so much, Jose. You guys rock. Keep it up. Thank you, guys. We support your support, Jose. Especially has been great. Thank you very much. That took me off guard there. Thank you, Jose.
And I was in the middle of a thought, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Don't remember what we were talking about. But Jose, if you have anything else you want to say, we can address the questions or anything like that. But thank you again.
First priority for the rest of the stream. Yeah. Absolutely. No questions asked. Any question that you ask will be, we will answer it right away.
You should gift directly to people. So Jose membership. Yeah, Shane, you have to, you can just gift them to random people. But,
that's right.
Connor Timmins. Yeah. Timmins has played good. Thanks again, Jose. Yeah. Timmins has played very good this preseason. And that's the biggest difference is his, he looked good, and maybe that's part of Berube's system. Maybe that's because he's given a lot more leeway, or maybe it's because the other defensemen he was playing with haven't looked quite as good. And then looking at some of the other things in this pairing, obviously Riley Tanev, that's going to be penciled in as your number one. OEL McCabe is interesting, and then Benoit, Liljegren, or Hakanpaa, or Timmins, whoever it is. But 5 of these guys are definitely locked in here. I know you hate that second line.
I don't know why he likes that. and when I say he, I mean Berube. I don't get it. I've seen nothing in the preseason that suggests that that's going to work. And we've seen everything. Didn't Benoit and McCabe look good last year? Am I crazy for thinking that? They're still on the team. Why wouldn't they play together? Put OEL, maybe it's the play styles. OEL needs somebody like McCabe. I don't know exactly what it is. They'll get used to it. And if it really doesn't work, then they'll get away from it. But nothing I've seen in the preseason suggests that that's going to work.
So you would put,
We'll see.
who would you put with OEL at this point? I guess, yeah.
Whoever the right shot defenseman is, if whenever Hakanpaa's ready, if it's Hakanpaa,
And maybe
if it's
that's
Liljegren,
why. Maybe they
it's
want,
Connor Timmins.
realistically, maybe it's because they want some continuity with OEL here. Because, I mean, they don't know whether it's going to be Liljegren or Hakanpaa or Timmins.
Yeah.
So maybe they want to get started with OEL early to get him comfortable. They know that McCabe will be here. And not only that, will probably be here for the next 3 or 4 years along with OEL.
That is true, right? Because they are working on a McCabe extension. It could come down. It's going to come down probably before the season starts based on what we've heard today. But the other thing I was just thinking as you were saying that is OEL is more offensively minded. I think he has a little bit of, he's a little aggressive and maybe physical as well, but I wouldn't think he's the best defensive defenseman or anything. So maybe putting OEL and someone like Connor Timmins together is not a great idea. Maybe that's what they're thinking. If Timmins is going to make the lineup, so they kind of want to spread that apart. Benoit more defensive with Connor Timmins, and then you have McCabe with OEL. Maybe they're just trying to do a little safety net, but I don't know. Benoit and McCabe were great together last year. I thought they were great. Why would you split that up? I don't know.
Maybe it's just
Benoit the mix of styles.
Hi, Nick and Darius. What's up, Joshua? Jose, thank you to you guys. Thank you, Jose, again for the generous donation. It means the world to both Darius and myself. A McCabe extension would be great. It seems like it's going to happen. And again, we'll probably have a full video covering that tomorrow because there's a lot of stuff going on. But there's also going to be moves going down as well. From a trade rumor, Kings acquiring Robertson and Yarncroc for a second and a fourth. That seems like a light return. That seems like a light return.
I wouldn't say it's light. Like I think Robertson.
I mean, I don't think the Leafs would want. Yeah, I guess in a nutshell, Robertson for a second's good, and then Yarncroc for a fourth is solid. But like, I don't think the Leafs would want to do that.
No, I think you would need something else in return. Although, like, the lineup would work better because everyone would be in the lineup. But if you have an injury, you're calling.
I guess it's not that bad. I don't know. I just feel like if I'm getting rid of Robertson for some reason, I feel like Robertson for a pick at this point is pretty redundant. Like they're trying to.
I just don't want to. Can we stop talking about Robertson? Like or trading him?
It could happen.
Just stop. I know it could still happen, but I hate it. I think he should be on the team. I think he's going to be.
I think he's going to have a good year.
Threat. Yeah,
I think he could command a first round pick if they really waited long enough.
I think if he puts up 30 goals this year, then yes. Why would there's no reason.
And maybe
not
even
to, right?
I mean, maybe there's a world he performs until the deadline, and they have a bunch of guys performing well, and then they trade him for higher value at the deadline. So there's a lot of.
There is a world where that does happen, yeah. For like a more veteran player that is also a scoring threat, right? I could definitely see that happening with more playoff experience. I could see that, but yeah, I don't know. Like I wouldn't trade him at this point. I think he's very valuable.
Of young players, let's dive into the Nikita Grebenkin situation a bit here. So his popularity soared with the Leafs during the Muskoka trip. Berube said, quote, Grebenkin is one funny guy. He's quite a character, this kid. He's got a real bright future in this league. He's close. He's impressed me just with his play, and he's a good player, obviously, and has some ability with his puck skills and strength and skating, but he's quite a character off the ice, pretty funny guy. He really enjoyed being around him. I guess he really enjoyed being around him was referring to Berube enjoying being around Grebenkin. But
Grebenkin.
Either way, that's a weird way to should have put the quotes off. But the point is, this is interesting. So there's a couple things to take from this. Obviously, we thought we had a little hype train there for a bit at the first preseason game with Nikita Grebenkin. He kind of fell off a little bit. It started to show might not be ready. And based on the way that Craig Berube is speaking, he probably isn't going to make the opening night lineup. And that's what is, I think at this point, that hope is all but done. There is a world where Easton Cowan probably plays his 8 games to get experience like Fraser Minton did last year. And that's something we could factor into here to opening night as well. Yeah. But it's an interesting quote and seems like a great guy and is definitely going to play for the Leafs next season would be my prediction.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll see him. I think we'll see him this year because injuries are going to happen. We'll see him this year. But a couple of things in this quote really threw me off where he was like, he really enjoyed being around him as if Grebenkin's going to go away now. Like he's never going to see him again. So there's a couple of things in this quote where I was like, yeah, this guy's not making the team and it's not his fault, right? I think he would have had to go above and beyond to make the team. That's kind of the culture they were kind of trying to set this year in training camp, which is great, right? But he would have had to do something that would have, really put him over the top for management and coaching staff. And he didn't do that, right? He just didn't do that. But he's not a bad player. He's going to go to the Marlies. He's going to have a great year. And I'm sure we'll see him at some point for sure, because it's not the Easton Cowan situation where he's got to go back to junior or stay in the NHL. You know, he can be called up. So we'll see him at some point for sure. And he's exciting. He's an exciting player to watch.
All the way from that fight in the first preseason game,
Yes,
hyping
yep,
up the crowd. Robertson's second line over Yarncroc. Yeah, I think we all agree with that. Definitely replace that. Not sure why he did that. Shout out Leafs updates though. He's a beast. But yeah, it's very interesting. I think ultimately there's probably no room for him right now. I don't think he's quite good enough at this very moment to be put into the opening night. He'll probably get reps when someone inevitably gets injured because I mean it's not the youngest third and fourth line there.
No.
So and the youngest defenseman either. Now obviously he's not going to play defense or anything. But the team is pretty old at this point. Some of the guys, obviously, a lot of your prime players are still young, but Robertson needs to play with either Domi. Needs to play with either Domi or Marner. Sorry, if he's going to hit 25 to 30 goals. Yeah, I mean, I think he has the ability, and I think he will. I think he will play with either Domi or Marner. And again, this has Matthews and Marner matched up together, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but I understand why they do it, even though I'm not a huge fan of it. But it's a good question by Paul. Who's been the most pleasant surprise so far in the preseason? Darius, I'll let you take it over. Shout out to Jose again for the $50. Just pop back up. But who's been the most pleasant surprise of the preseason so far?
So if everyone's been, keeping up with the streams and some of our recent videos, this is not going to come as a surprise. It's Rafai. It's Marshall Rafai. He's been my most surprising player for sure. I didn't think he would be this high on the depth chart at this point, and he looks fantastic. He looks like he's one injury away from being in the lineup kind of thing. Like at this point, he really brings it. So, he's been the surprise for me. Honestly, I don't know, people might be like, what are you talking about with this one? Tavares, to me, he just looks so free. Like before he got injured, he looks like I'm just ready to come in and conquer again in this new position. So I'm very excited to see what third line John Tavares looks like this year. He's playing a little more free, I think.
Yeah, I think for me, surprise will have to be Stephen Lorentz now at this point. I think
That's a good pick.
Because, I mean, I didn't really... Neither of us factored him into actually making the team, and now it's probably inevitable that he factors into the Toronto Maple Leafs lineup somehow. So, I mean, ultimately, it's going to... for me, it's Lorentz, the biggest surprise, and some other guys that impressed. I'd go with all the goaltending, whether it's Matt Murray, Dennis Hildeby, Stolarz, Joseph Wall to a degree. He's still battling injury a little bit. I got a question
on the Stolarz train for sure. You've been on the Stolarz train.
We got to make a new one. Benoit train and a Stolarz train together. I had a question. Why aren't you a fan of Matthews and Marner? Marner assisted on the majority of Matthews' goals last year. Their chemistry is fire.
Well, first of all, definitely a big fan of Austin Matthews. Got the jersey behind me right here. But
I think he meant Matthews and Marner on the line together.
Together, yeah, I know what he meant for sure. I'm not, because I do not like the way Austin Matthews plays when Mitch Marner is on his line. He plays heavier.
Last year. It was weird.
Yeah, I think he plays way heavier style and more free with guys like Bertuzzi and Domi on his wing. Obviously, Bertuzzi's not available, so I don't like that. But even a guy like Nyes, I think he can play more free with a guy like that on his wing. But it's more finesse when Marner's there. And it's not that I hate it. They're going to try it this year, and I think it'll work fine. They'll put up goals. And I actually don't think that he assisted on most of Matthews' goals last year. I could be wrong on that, but I thought I searched it up, and I thought it was someone else. But actually, it probably was Marner just because of the power play. But yeah, I just don't like the way he plays with him. They're going to do it again this year. I'm sure it'll be fine. And obviously you have to sacrifice that for the betterment of the rest of the lineup. And that's something Berube has been talking about as well. Like if the lines don't make sense just to have Matthews and Marner split up, then don't do it, right? But yeah, we'll see what happens. We don't even know what's going to happen with Nylander at center either. I would suspect that they're going to keep trying to move forward with it. But if it really doesn't work, then that's something we're going to have to talk about as well.
Yeah, if Patrick makes a team, is he a third or fourth liner? My guess is third liner, but I mean, there's a world where he's fourth. But I think if everything goes as planned, third. But speaking of Marner or Nylander, sorry, he spoke out on going into the season playing center and how he's feeling and his expectations / thoughts compared to last year. He said, "I feel like I like playing wing, but I also like see the upside of playing center, especially for the team. I'm not really worried about myself. Whatever makes your team better in the long run is more important than me feeling comfortable on the wing. If they think center is better for me, then that's where I'll play. Last year, with the contract situation, I put pressure on myself. Now, I feel pressure to do even better than I did last year. That's my goal." Don't we all love William Nylander? What a guy. I got his jersey behind me here, obviously. But, yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's still up in the air. And this is assuming that Willie plays center on the second line. There's a possibility for that. There could be a world where he plays on the wing, and then you'll have to move some guys up, and then maybe, I mean, I don't know who you'd necessarily have at center on the second line. Domi, maybe something like that.
Probably Domi, but that's
not
I don't know.
Ideal.
Anyway,
so this is what he had to say about it, and it's not a bad thing, but I still want them to give him a chance at center. But ultimately, whatever the team is, and they're seeing a lot more than we are, practice behind the scenes and things like that to make their decisions. So ultimately, I'll trust them when it comes to this because they haven't given me a reason not to trust them yet. Craig Berube, that is.
The thing with the track record of putting Nylander at center and trying it for me is even going into this year, they should keep trying it. And even if he looks like garbage 5 games in, and not garbage, but like, oh, he's making a couple mistakes, keep him at center. Give it like 10 games because I don't think the team is going to they're not going to lose games because Nylander's playing center, right? It's going to be on the team if they lose those games. But give him like 10 games, 15 games, something like that. Really try it. And if after 10 or 15 games or somewhere in there, 12 games, whatever, you're like, hey, this is not working, then you can change it. But don't give me like a period and a half and be like, he had like a turnover and he didn't cover his guy one time. Like that, you can't give me that because you're not actually trying it. He has to be put in situations. He has to learn, okay, I didn't cover my guy that time. He scored. I have to learn how to play, responsibly defensively. So we'll see how it goes. They need a pretty significant sample size here.
Thank you, Paul, why does it keep popping up? For Paul, it works out, for becoming an elite tier member. Now you get access to a bunch of emotes and things like that. And we're going to be adding a bunch of emotes as well as the season goes on, depending on who does well and everything like that. So we're gonna be getting a lot of emotes going to use for the post-game stream. So Paul, thank you for thank you for the support, and you'll be able to use those emotes, and they'll be useful for the post-game streams. Again, we're gonna be on live often.
Jose brings something up that we have not talked about yet, and I've been thinking about this recently. A lot of people say that the Leafs don't have depth scoring. They need to add more scorers throughout the lineup. He brings up that Matthews and Marner get out-checked, and that's why they don't score and they disappear in the playoffs. I think the way the Leafs play the past couple of years under Sheldon Keefe is why they don't score in the playoffs. It's not that they don't have scoring threats on the third line, fourth line. They play on the perimeter. They don't play hard. They don't get to the front of the net, right? This is the reason that they're not scoring. It's not because they don't have another scoring threat on the third line. We haven't really talked about it. So thank you, Jose, for bringing that up. It just reminded me because I've been thinking about this the last couple of days, couple of weeks, where I'm like, I don't think it's that they need another scorer like even Pacioretty on the third line to help. That's not the actual reason. It's their play style come playoff time that does not allow them to score. They don't break through, right? Even with Boston, it was a low scoring series. Boston does not have the team that they used to have, right? Very low scoring series. The Leafs could not break through. They left to play on the perimeter. It's their play style. It's not the players throughout the lineup. It's their play style. They have to change the way they play. Ovechkin had the same problem. He changed the way he played. He won a Stanley Cup. So that's the way I see it. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, now they have Craig Berube. Wouldn't let me super chat, so I had to do something. Yeah, Paul, thank you for the support. Probably giving you an error super chatting. Either way, thank you for the you get the emotes now. So thank you for
yes, thank you. And Paul, you've been around for a long time as well. I think since we started Wednesday streaming as well. So thank you.
Thank you for the support. You're 100% right. Also hit the like button if you're new. Let's hit the 50 likes. We're at 33 now. So I think I can think 50 is pretty attainable. Who will be the points leader for the Leafs this year, and how many wins will Wall get this year? And we can spend the last little bit of the stream here shortly doing our predictions, Darius, because we're not going to be going live again until opening night. So this is the time for us to do our predictions, but we'll do it in a little bit here. A couple more pieces of news to get over.
I'll keep this highlighted.
Yeah, to get over first. So obviously, this is what I was mentioning earlier and alluding to earlier. Craig Berube, and whether he's settled on an opening night lineup. We still have some competition going on for sure. Chief discusses team bonding trip, Hakanpaa duo participating in practice, and the Matthews-Marner duo. So again, it seems like at this point, Marner and Matthews will probably be a duo together. And it seems like he doesn't have his lineup fully set in, though. My guess is he has it 90% set in. He can't say that he has it fully set in because a trade hasn't happened to get Max Pacioretty on a full-time contract yet. He's still on his PTO. So is Steven Lorentz. So depending on what happens with those two, he can't say for sure that he's getting him locked in here, but it's pretty much locked in. I would assume, though, Lorentz is still up in the air for me. I'm not 100% sold that the Leafs are sold on him.
No, I don't think so either because they have to find the money, right? And they're going to have to trade. Even Yarncroke, one thing we didn't touch on that video we talked about with Yarncroke, he has a 10-team no-trade list. So that's another kind of monkey wrench into the situation as well. But yeah, I think he has it in his head, right? Berube has it in his head, but they just have to see how these last two games go because if Lorentz doesn't show something, if they figure that, okay, we can't sign Lorentz because we got to keep this guy because we can't move him, whoever this guy is, we can't move this player, right? So we have to keep this player. We can't sign Lorentz. Like there's still a lot up in the air. I mean, at the end of the day, anything can happen in these last two games. and even Pacioretty could not be signed, right? Anything can happen at this point still, but I think he does have the lineup in his head and what's going to work for him in the back of his head for sure. And I think we're getting small glimpses of that as well through these practice lineups.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we're seeing preseason games. They aren't going to be a direct correlation, but the ones where they did play most of their guys, now it's yet to be seen who plays tomorrow, whether they rest a lot of their guys, whether they keep them going. Again, we're a week away from opening night with, I believe, 2 preseason games, tomorrow and Saturday, I think. So, I mean, there's only a little bit of time left, and maybe one of these 2 games upcoming, they'll show their hand a little bit. But again, they play the Montreal Canadiens, and that's going to be a spicy game, especially with everything that's been going on with the Canadiens and all the things that have been happening. So it's definitely, it's going to be a fun game, but I just want the Leafs first and foremost to win, because obviously they got to get into the playoffs. We all know that they're going to make the playoffs, or at least we all think they are, but it's going to be important this year in the regular season to actually go out and do what they always do and get as many wins as they can, especially with how it's a different coach. I want them to be fully prepared under the new coach's system, because it's a different system for the first time, and a new system for most of these guys, especially Austin Matthews, Mitch Brown. All they've ever known is Sheldon Keefe in the NHL, at least at the NHL level. So now they need to adjust and practice these things in the regular season. I don't want to see them coasting too much, at least, especially earlier on in the year, like they did last year for a little bit before they picked it up and got in the playoffs.
They know Mike Babcock too, but they got to the point where when Sheldon Keefe was hired, they were at the age that they built those habits, right? So now they have all these habits that they kind of got to get rid of, and Berube is going to work on that. So you're right. Like I want to see them kind of what they look like under the new structure, the new system.
I erased Mike Babcock era from my mind.
I think some of us did. That first year was great.
It was good.
That first year was fantastic. Yeah, with Matthews, Marner, and Nylander. But anyway. I want to see them prepared, come out hard. This is, this isn't like, oh, let's go out and have some fun. This is the first game, leave some Montreal. No, go in, win that game, and start, start your season off right. Yeah, like get those 2 points, no matter what happens. But it should be a good game. I think Montreal is kind of upset, obviously, the last couple of days, and we saw what happened with Jack Guy yesterday. So I think it's going to be a crazy game, crazy fun. And we're going to have a lot of fun after the game as well, here live on the channel with Habs Digest as well. This is going to be fun. Which
is going to be a spicy stream, because there's been some differing opinions regarding the Herb Jack Guy stuff. And I want to see what you guys have to say when we stream again. Yeah, like you mentioned, next week, right after the game, alongside it's going to be us 2 with Jesse and Josh at Habs Digest. And hopefully we're celebrating a massive win, but we need as many of you guys in here for that one, because who doesn't want to be a part of the first game of the year? Hopefully they win and it's electric. I also hit the like button. We're super close to 50, 13 away. But Darius, I think we can start to do some predictions now and do our over-unders or whatever it is. And we can take some from the chat as well. I don't have any written up, but we usually before the season we can do this. We obviously didn't have a chance to do it last year on the stream, at least. So we'll start, and we can kind of just eyeball them a little bit. Maybe we can write them down and check them out at the end of the year. Maybe everyone who's in here next year when we're doing this at the end of the season, we can see how it's going. But we can start with the over-unders, and I'll search some up and just see what the lines are. But we can start with the one the comment you highlighted. We can start with that, and then I can go into some of the betting ones and what the books have. And I want everybody in chat play along as well. Leave your over-unders, for everything. And I'm this is fun. This is exciting, and we can finally do it, because I promised a week away we'll do it. And here we are, 1 week.
And here we are. So Turbo sent one that we can answer very quickly, and then Mike sent one too that I thought was very interesting. So Turbo said, if it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final overtime, who are you putting on the ice? Matthews and Nylander, or Tavares and Marner? To me, it's very easy. It's Nylander and Matthews.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. So Mike said, who will be the Leafs points leader this year, and how many wins will Woll get this year? Which I think is a very interesting second part of that question. But Nick, who do you think is going to lead the team in points? I know my answer.
That's a good one. I'm going to ponder for a second, because I want these to, if we look back at these, I want these to be pretty accurate. You can go first, and I'm gonna ponder. I think. Okay, go ahead. I know you. I think I feel like I know what you're gonna say, but go ahead.
Barring any injuries, I think it's Mitch Marner this year. I think he's gonna have a crazy season because it's a contract year. So I think it will be Mitch Marner. And in terms of the second part of the question, Joseph Woll, I'm hoping. I don't know how many games he's going to play. I don't know what the plan is exactly. So again, I'm just spitballing here, but I'm hoping somewhere in the 20 range, because I feel like they're really going to split things up, and he's only going to play. I don't even know if he's going to play 40 games. So hopefully somewhere in the 20 range, something like that.
there's a good world where Marner does end up. I'm gonna go with Matthews, but there's a world where Marner ends up with the most points. But I'm gonna go with Austin Matthews, and we'll get into the point predictions here in a little bit. And for
Yeah,
Wall, I mean, I'm gonna go with 14 wins.
I think that's fair. I really don't think he's going to play more
I
than
think Stolaris.
35
I
games.
also just think Stolaris is going to win the spot, and I could be very wrong about that. I think Stolaris is going to
Yeah.
win the spot and end up playing 50 games to Wall's like 32. That's my prediction. I know some people are saying Wall will play 50, Stolaris will play 32. It's very possible, though. There's also the injury concerns for both of them, really, but especially for Joseph Wall. So I'm going to go 14 wins for Wall, like 14 and honestly something like 14 6-2 or something pretty solid, and then Stolaris will play the rest of the games and get like 23 wins or something
I
like that.
still think Matt Murray
More
is going
than
to
that.
factor into that as well.
Matt
But
Murray as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So,
But I think you could be. I don't think you're wrong for suggesting that Stolars could take over the spot. Like I think that's something that could very likely,
like it.
like it's very likely to happen. Actually,
I'm on
So,
that
we'll
train.
see.
Let's go with just the over under for the Toronto Maple Leafs wins this year. And I don't have a number yet. I'm looking at some of the betting odds. A lot of them aren't out yet. The Leafs are plus 1400 to win the cup and plus 750 to win the Eastern Conference. But what is your prediction for the Leafs wins? So again, you can just throw it out there. 82 games. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go with 52.
Wow, that's okay. I'm going to go with. I think they take a step back in the regular season because there are going to be some growing pains. I'm going to go with like 47.
Okay.
But I think that's a great season still, and they're going to get into the playoffs. I think there's also a world where they win the President's Trophy. So, and definitely win the Atlantic because it's not weak per se, like especially if you got into the playoffs, but there are a couple teams I think taking a bit of a step back, especially Boston's goaltending situation right now, which I'm loving, by the way.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Fantastic stuff. But yeah, I think they'll probably take a step back. Minor step. Little step.
I am going all in. I'm going all in on the Leafs this year. I'm doing it. Even though there is a real possibility where they take a little bit to find their footing, but I think even if they start slow, like in the first 35 games, they win 20 of them. I feel like they could still just go on a crazy streak and win their last however many, like win like 30 of their last 40 or do something crazy. Because I mean, they have the talent to do it. Obviously, maybe it won't be that extreme, but my guess is 52 wins. 50, and my prediction is also that they win the Eastern Conference while we're here as well. I think they win
Eastern
the East.
Conference.
I think they win the
Okay,
conference.
yeah.
I think they win the conference, especially
Not
with
the league,
everything
though.
that's happening with the.
Yeah, not the league though. You don't think the league? I don't think it's crazy to suggest that they'd win the Eastern Conference. No, I think this is
I
the
mean, you
year
could
that
you
they
can give them the President's Trophy. I think they could win the league, yeah, as well. I mean, I guess if I'm already going all in, let's just make that prediction now. They finished with the most points in the league, but
All right.
but they start a little bit, tiny bit slow. So
Yeah.
let's move on to the next one here. Let's do an over under for this. It's a bit easier. Let's go over under 62.5 goals for Austin Matthews.
Over for me personally. Over, yeah. I think he's gonna have a crazy season. I think he's mad that he didn't get the 70. I really do think he's really mad that he
Yeah, I
didn't
don't
get
think he's
70.
happy about it either. Over
No.
under 62.5 goals for Austin Matthews, which is an absurd line.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, if you really think about it for any other player, that's crazy.
I'm gonna go very slightly under, slightly.
Fair.
I'm gonna go like 58 to 62. That's my guess. Even though I do have him having the most points. So
Yeah. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you have to.
no, I know
He'll have some
assists,
assists.
and I'm also
He'll toss some assists in there for sure. He does have the tendency to kind of have up and down years, like over the course of his career. So this could be a down year where he scores 60 goals. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I think I definitely think over. I think he's really mad. I feel like he wants to smash 70.
I think he's.
I feel like he can get to 80 if he really tried. Like at the start of last year, I was kind of like, whoa. He had like 8 goals in the first 3 games. Or
also have
something.
to take into account health here, and that he'll play all
Yeah,
these games
yeah.
and he'll stay fully healthy. So that's the one.
New style of play, so that could factor in as well. We have to be cautious of that. So
Let's predict who you think is going to be the biggest surprise of the year in this upcoming. So we look back at it at the end. Who do we think is gonna, or who do we think is gonna be the breakout player of the year? I guess you can say. We'll consider it the breakout, or a guy who didn't have a phenomenal year last year is really gonna shine this year.
Mine, for me, and I've we've talked about it on stream and in certain videos, and I think it's going to be Morgan Riley. I think
It's a good one.
I think with Tanev beside him now, he's going to be able to be like, oh, great, I don't have to clean up messes anymore. great. Let me go for a skate and do something here. So I think it's going to be Morgan Riley. I think in terms of, yeah, like a bounce back year, or whatever we want to call it, like he didn't have the greatest year last year. And, who's going to play to that next level this year? I think it's going to be Morgan Riley. I like a lot of people saying Nyes as well.
Mine was gonna be Nyes.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick as well, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just go with Nyes as well. And I mean, there's some other ones as well. Maybe Tavares. Yeah, like Tavares could have a really good
Tavares
year.
too, potential there.
OEL could have a really good year, like on the power play. So especially if he slots into power play 1. So it's like if he goes into power play 1, gets a bunch
I've been
of
on
points.
that since they signed him. I think he'll be on PP1 for the, well, maybe not to start the year, but I think to end the year he'll probably be there. But Tavares too, I think that's interesting. I think a lot of pressure off his shoulders. He's still going to be on the power play, so
Robo
potential to put
too.
up some points.
It's a good one.
Robo, yeah. Although I don't know, Robertson for me, like I don't know how other people feel, or even you, Nick, but like to me, it's like I'm just waiting for him to, like, I know he can score 30 goals.
You're
it's
a
just
big,
like, hey
you're
man,
a big
like,
Robertson fan.
I think, yeah, man, his last year in junior, if anyone wants to go look up his stats, it doesn't make sense when you look at them. It is so crazy. He had, I think, 13 more goals in games played. Like it doesn't make sense. But again, that's junior. But big fan of his. Always have been, especially when he was playing in Peterborough. But yeah, I don't know. I think he has potential there. I know he has potential. It's just he has to reach that kind of ceiling there.
Yep, I agree. And Robert bet with the $10. Thank you very, very much. A thought: if we can trade Kampf and Liljegren for high draft picks, put Pacioretty with Tavares, and put McMahon with Lorentz, alternate Timmins and Hakanpaa to rest Hakanpaa for the playoffs. Thoughts? So again, thank you for the $10. I'm gotta get more organized with the donation thing, but thank you so much for the 10, Robert. You're a legend, absolute legend. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a real world where something of that nature happens. I don't know if they're gonna be high draft picks though.
No, they're not going to be high draft picks. Although, so the way I envision it, Pacioretty, Tavares, McMahon on one line, and then you have Lorentz, Holmberg, Reeves, and then whoever. I probably am missing somebody who's sitting out right. Maybe Dewar. Maybe you switch Dewar with Reeves here and there, even though he's a left shot. Don't like that on the right side, but nonetheless, maybe they mix with that. That's the way I see the third line right now, just with the personnel that they have, like a really hard checking third line. And in terms of defense, if they're not keeping Liljegren, yeah, Hakanpaa and Timmins, just switch them out depending on the situation, who they're playing. If you're playing Boston, you're putting Hakanpaa in. If you're not, then you're putting Timmins in. Depends on the team you're playing and injuries, of course. So, and if you're keeping Liljegren as well, because we don't know what's happening right now.
Thank you again, Robert. Also, if you're a part of the 130 in here, hit the like button. We all like seeing numbers go up, and we're super close to 50 likes. So if we could do that, it would be nice. Where are you putting McMahon? Probably the third, but I mean, it could be the fourth as well. Where's the thing? Here it is.
He can fit in kind of, I don't want to say anywhere, because I keep hammering home the identity thing with Berube, because I think that second line is supposed to be high flying pure offense. That's what I'm getting from this, at least. But I would put McMahon on the third line with Pacioretty and Tavares, and McMahon on the right side. Again, they have way too many left shots. I don't like that, but it's what they have right now. And maybe move out. I don't know where Yarncroke fits in anymore.
Yeah, I don't personally. There's a world where they trade him, so it's like, I mean, I said this might be the last stream, but if they make a crazy trade, thanks again, Robert. If they make a crazy trade, there is a world where we could go live if something crazy happens. But I think most of the trades will be pretty low key. On Nylander Grebenkin, who do you boys think Johnny T will set up 60 points? I think Grebenkin, I guess his name is now, is probably definitely going to get sent back to the AHL. Landshark, got to check out. See you all guys opening night.
Landshark.
We will see you well, again, we have a video every single day. We'll have a video tomorrow. So if you want to, but live stream wise, we'll see you a week from today. And Landshark, I hope to see you in there. Again, we're going to be streaming with Habs Digest. We need all the Leafs fans, all of us. We've got to gather around for that. And yeah, Paul, McMahon is probably going to be somewhere in the third or fourth line. And a couple more predictions.
So,
go ahead.
Shane brings up an interesting point where that is a slow third line, right? And I'm just trying to look up what St. Louis's lineup looked like, and I hate to compare them, but I don't think they were they had a couple lines that were not.
They also look good together in the preseason.
Yeah, they look like they were kind of mixing it up, and I don't know if I'm scared of them. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if I'm scared of that no speed thing with the new style they're trying to play and what both of those guys bring specifically. And McMahon, like if he puts McMahon on the third line with those two, McMahon is not a slow skater. He's he might look slow compared to some of the other guys, sure, but I think McMahon is pretty quick. So I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out, but I think that line has an identity. They're gonna forecheck pretty hard, and they can be a scoring threat, and they're heavy. So I don't know at this point. Am I worried about it? I would have to see it in real time. And I think there's going to be a lot of growing pains in the first 10 to 15 games that we have to expect. And it's going to be fun nonetheless. Like they're going to try a bunch of different things, I think. And what we see opening night is not what we'll see in January, is not what we'll see in April. So,
And what we're looking at now is probably not what we see in opening night a week from today. So there's a bunch of different things, but a couple more things here. Slower third, but faster second if everything works out. Yeah, I mean, the second one should be just a pure offensive powerhouse, score a ton of goals. Nylander, Domi, all these guys just ready to go. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But for that, through the first 10 games, what is the prediction for the Maple Leafs record? Also, thank you guys for getting 50 likes. Appreciate it. First 10 games. What is our prediction for the Leafs record? And in case you're wondering, I'll get the schedule and we'll go over it.
Yeah, actually, let's do that if you can.
And we can go through each matchup. We can honestly do it for the first handful of games. But I'll grab it here now.
There's some pretty funny matchups in the first week, not going to lie. Like it's pretty hilarious that the schedule makes us do this. But
I'm just going to put this on. It's not going to look pretty, so I apologize. But
oh, that's great.
Here we are. Yeah, put it here. Cover our faces. So throughout the first however many games, what are we thinking wins and losses here? So this is going to be interesting. So we'll go one by one. So Montreal Canadiens opening night, 7 p.m. Eastern, going to be electric. We're going to be live after the game. One of the most exciting games of the year. Darius, the Maple Leafs win or do they lose?
Against the Montreal Canadiens, I believe the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to come out hard, and they are going to win that game for sure.
Okay, I agree. So we're starting 1-0. We're going 1-0.
Yep.
Now, the next night, they're playing the New Jersey Devils on the second night of a back-to-back. This is against Sheldon Keefe, hopefully coming off of a big win against the Montreal Canadiens. But second night of a back-to-back, new coach, all these different things. What is your prediction?
They are going to, I hate to say this, but they're going to lose this game. They're not going to have enough gas in the tank after that game against Montreal. I don't know why it's a back-to-back to start the year. New Jersey is going to be hyped up. It's their home opener. They're going to want to play for Sheldon Keefe against his former team, so I could see them winning that game.
Okay.
I think it's a 1-1 situation.
So at this point so far, we're at 1-1. I'm going to do it this way so you can still see our faces.
Nice.
Okay, so we have 1-1. Okay, so far we're 1-1 throughout. Now, you then are taking them on Saturday. The Pittsburgh Penguins, fresh off of a interesting year. Now, this is also has some backstory. Kyle Dubas, of all people. So we're going with a Keefe Dubas, kind of not back-to-back, but an interesting one. What is your prediction for this? Also, I'm going to say they win game 2, so I'm at 2-0. But you can go ahead. I think they start off the season great. But you can go ahead the first couple games. I think they might slow down eventually. But
sure.
Pittsburgh Penguins, Saturday night. Oh, it's giving me chills thinking about it. But Penguins.
7-0 Leafs. I'm not joking. I think this is a blowout, and I think it's a win. Yeah, okay. A home opener against the Penguins. I think it'll be a blowout.
Now, keep in mind, you mentioned the home opener. These first 2 games are on the road, so it's gonna be a pretty rough one. So I'm at 3-0. There is a world if there is a game they're gonna lose, even out of these first 10 games. The most likely loss is probably game 2 if we're looking at these against a pretty 100%. Good, a decent New Jersey Devils team, and on the road, second night of a back-to-back. But the interesting thing here is, and this is something that not a lot of people are talking about, is in this second game, in the first 2 games of the year, we're going to get to see Stolarz and Joseph Woll. So we get to see a taste of both of them and kind of just see what happens with each of them. And that's not something most people are talking about because, I mean, whether it's 1A, 1B, it doesn't really matter who starts opening night because the next night the other guy's going to be playing anyway. And there's 2 back-to-backs in the first 7 games.
Now, there's an interesting thing now that you brought that up, and I was just thinking about it. There's an interesting storyline here because I believe Joseph Woll is going to get that first game against Montreal. And not only for the reason that he's, the quote-unquote starter, but Anthony Stolarz is from New Jersey. He grew up in New Jersey, and he grew up a New Jersey Devils fan. So there's going to be a real incentive to, first of all, play him that game, and obviously shut them out in their home opener. So I think that's an interesting storyline coming into the second game too.
Definitely. It is. So it's going to be Woll, Stolarz, probably Woll. Maybe, honestly, whoever has the better game for against the Pittsburgh Penguins, depending on how they do it. Because there is a night in between, but most likely it's going to be Wall because it gives them extra days rest. And then you have 3 days off, which is going to be horrible. It's gonna suck. We finally get a taste of Leafs hockey, and then we have to wait 3 days. And then it's against the new logo Los Angeles Kings here, and this is another interesting one. So this is fresh off of rest, fresh off of the Penguins game. I think they go out and win this one too, but I mean, I just think they win it.
I think they win this one. LA is not what they were. There's a couple teams here that are not what they were.
Yeah, pretty easy start to the schedule in theory, and I'm hoping this doesn't get clipped and if we're 1-3 to start the year. But yeah, I think they win against the Kings. I think that one's gonna be pretty easy, especially off of all the rest. Like, I think this one's especially they'll have a feet under them a little bit a week into the year. I think they win this one. So they're probably either 4-0 or 3-1 to start, according to us. And then they have another 2 days off before playing the New York Rangers. Again, these are all at home. So blue means at home, white means away. So they're going to be at home against New York. That's going to be a tough game. That's going to be a very, very tough game. And I think this one's going to be a battle. I'm going to say they're going to lose against the Rangers on that Saturday, but I'm going to say that.
That's their first real test. This is a really good team in the New York Rangers. So I'm going to agree with you that they'll probably, I don't want to say probably, but I'm going to say that they lose this game. It's going to be their first real test.
These are objective These are projections. These are predictions. So we got to think.
And I hope there's a lot of growing pains. I hope they win. I agree. But I mean, you think about it, and they're a good team.
They have a great goalie. They're a very, very good team.
Physical.
Fit, and not only that, the Leafs are going to have some like you mentioned, some growing pains and like some things are happening. So it's going to be a rough one. But if they can win that one, like if they take care of business, even go 3-1 through the first 4, and then they win against the Rangers, you're going to be in really, really good shape. And then you have the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are also pretty good. So that's a tough couple games here. You have Saturday Lightning, and then Saturday Rangers, Monday Lightning. I think they take care of business against the Lightning, but I think it's going to be another absolute battle of a game here.
It's going to be another battle, but again, Tampa's not what they were. I could see them losing this game. I definitely think that they'll win this game because it's at home and they have like a day off in between. But I'm more concerned about the next night, and that's going to be a bit of a test because how do you respond against presumably a bad team, right? And in their building on the second half of a back-to-back. But I think Tampa's not exactly, they still have great pieces, but they're not what they were.
Yeah, and ultimately, we have 2 goalies for a reason, so I don't think it'll hurt as much as maybe in the
team
past.
Will be tired though.
But the team, like you mentioned, the team will be tired. Reeves versus opening night. Okay, and then you have the Blues at home. Again, I think that's going to be a tough one too. I think they take care of business against the Blues.
They should. Yeah, it's at home. You have a day off. They should take care of business. The Blues, again, a little bit of a weaker team. They're on the come up though. They retooled a little bit, so it'll be fun to watch. But they should win that game.
And then you have on Saturday, the third Saturday of the season, the rematch, the Boston Bruins, maybe with Jeremy Swayman, probably not, who knows, away on the road in Boston. Going to be an absolute slugfest, and it's going to be a tough one.
So I'm not going to give a prediction for this one, but this is what I'll say about this game. It's a Saturday night on Hockey Night in Canada. You're in Boston, the team that just beat you in the playoffs and have always beaten you in the playoffs. If you lose this game, this tells me everything I need to know about this team. And if you win this game, I feel like it tells me everything I need to know about this team. I'll leave it at that.
Overreaction, Darius, 3 weeks into the season.
I'll leave it at that. No, I'm being so serious because that's going to tell me everything I need to know about this team.
I think it depends more about how they go out and play. I think that will tell me more than the actual end result.
Sure. Okay. I could agree with that. But not really though. You got to win the game. You have to win that game.
Okay, I'm gonna predict a win, but it's gonna be an absolute battle again. I'm curious to see what you all think in the comments about this one. And then you play Winnipeg and the Seattle Kraken to wrap up the month, and we'll go over October and November and in the future. We're just gonna focus on this for now, November and December, all that stuff. We're just gonna focus on this, the first 11 or so games. Yeah. Winnipeg on the road. Winnipeg are a very good team. They obviously have one of the better goalies in the NHL, and Connor Hellebuck. It's going to be a good test too. I mean, Bruins and Winnipeg is a tough 2-game and 3-night stretch on the road, and they need to at least split these. You cannot lose both against 2 very good teams. I think they go 1-1. I'm probably going to say they beat the Bruins and lose to the Jets here, but the Jets are no joke, even though they haven't been as good as of late.
No, I think the Jets are going to be a pretty good team again this year, and like you said, like it's just the schedule. Like I could see them splitting these 2, and I don't know which one it's going to be, which one they'll win or they'll lose. But I could see them splitting these two. But there's going to be a lot to take out of these games at this point in the schedule already. I think the mental aspect of the game, there's going to be a lot to see how they kind of react in these games and how they play.
Yeah, and I think the clobber the Kraken. I think it's not close.
Yeah, I would
And
agree with that.
that'll be that. So probably through the first 11, 8-3, depending on there might be
Something like
some
that.
regulation, some overtime ones in there, some
There's going to be
shootout
growing
ones.
pains, though. I feel like we might be shocked if they lose. I wouldn't say I'll be shocked because, like, I think there is going to be growing pains and they're going to lose games that they should win early on. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them more even or close to even. But they should be above 500 after 11 games.
It's a good point, Shredden. We probably definitely are catching some of these teams in the end of a back-to-back, and we're not. So I'm sure it works
That's a
both
great point,
ways
yeah.
there, and we'll get that. But that'll wrap it up. Obviously, we're a week away, Darius. A week from today is going to be an electric stream. We want all of you to tune in. It's against the Montreal Canadiens. We'll be live after the game with Habs Digest with Josh, my brother, and Jesse, and we're going to have to I hope we win so I can chirp them as much as I want to, especially given all the Arbor stuff. But any final thoughts in the chat? Any final questions, Darius? Anything? This is the last stream, most likely before opening night. It's been an electric off season. Again, we're going to have videos every single day as Shane comes in with the buzzer beater. Shane Brome, thank you so much. Hot takes, Mariners top 5 points in the league. Nylander under a point per game. Riley top 5 point league D-man. Maddie wins the Selkie. And Joseph Walls top 5 in wins in the league. Definitely some hot takes. That's very interesting. Interesting. Thank you so much for the $6.99 there. That is a dono at the buzzer if I've ever seen one. Thank you so much, Shane Brome, for the $6.99. Your guys' support in this stream has been unreal. Hopefully we can. Oh, hit my mic. Hopefully we're going to continue to stream for you guys all the way through, and we're super excited for this season. We've been hyping it up now for months, and it's going to be the content you guys are going to be getting is going to be electric this year, and there's going to be a lot of it, and the daily videos won't stop. So throughout the whole year, we'll keep you up to date with all because there's gonna be a lot of news, just a lot of stuff happening. If you're a Leafs fan, and I guess the Leafs, we're gonna be here all the way.
We got a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of stuff, and you'll start to see it next week. It's going to be exciting. We've been working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes, so it's going to be fun to share it with you guys, and lots of content coming. And yeah, a couple hot takes there for sure. But I could see the Marner.
I don't think the Wall one has any shot of happening, but I mean,
I'm not sure about the Wall one. I'm also not sure about Matthews winning the Selkie, but I think Riley, is going to be unlocked this year. I think there's a real possibility there. And the other ones I could agree with. I think Marner's going to be great this year. Contract year is going to go off. They always do. These guys always do in their contract years. So we'll see. But yeah, it's going to be a fun season. It's going to be so much fun.
Thanks again, Shane. And again, the wait is almost over. I'll throw this up for you, though. Thank you again, Shane, for that. The wait is almost over. And it's been a long time coming, and a week from today, we finally get what we've been waiting for so long. Leafs hockey, and hopefully they don't disappoint us. Hopefully this is the beginning of what is going to be one of the more exciting seasons in a while. But thank you all for tuning in. And again, thank you for all the support this stream and all the weekly streams are going to keep happening. If you want more Leafs content, we had a video earlier today, video coming out for you tomorrow and every day after that for the foreseeable future. And thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys tomorrow in tomorrow's video, and as well as in the